Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Nashville Predators Throwback 2000 franchise mode here in NHL 24. So in last episode, we started simulating more of year number 2, and our team has definitely fallen off quite a bit in the standings. We are 20-36-5-3, and we're 2-7-0-1 in our last 10 games, and it's been a miserable time for this team defensively. Like, the offense has been okay at times, but definitely the defensive play has not been there. As you can see, like, the last little while, we've been losing games by convincing fashions. Obviously, we had a couple nice wins here against Washington and Chicago, but afterwards, we've been on a 7-game losing streak as of right now, losing one of those in overtime, but like a 4-1 convincing loss, a 3-1 convincing loss, 4-3 OT loss, 3-2 loss, 6-0 loss to Florida, 3-1 loss to Colorado, in a 4-0 loss to the Vancouver Canucks. So our team has definitely fallen off quite a bit. However, the Vancouver Canucks, who we just lost to, are doing actually worse than us. They're 12-41-10-1. So Vancouver, again, not doing too well at this point in time, which is kind of interesting. So obviously we hope that we could still get the first overall pick this year, but if it doesn't happen, hopefully at least get a nice top 3 pick and we don't fall back in the draft lottery, because obviously that would hurt us a little bit. But today's episode obviously is going to be the trade deadline and simulating the rest of year number 2. There's a couple of players that we're probably going to be trying to trade away in this episode. One in particular is going to be probably Drake Berehowski, because at the moment he's been playing pretty good hockey in terms of offense, 33 points through 62 games. However, he is a -15, so he's going to probably get flipped away, and then we could probably find somebody younger. Like, there was a potential trade offer that was thrown to us for him, which was involving Hal Gill, which is an interesting one because Hal Gill is obviously like 5 years younger, so I think that would be probably one of those trades that we end up making. But in terms of everybody else, I'm not sure if there's other guys I would trade. There is the potential to maybe trade somebody like Yachmanov, who's pending UFA. However, I could technically hold on to him because he's only 27, but maybe we decide to trade him away right now. We also do have like guys like Ville Peltonen, who we could potentially trade away if we really want to, and some other veterans like Valachevic, for example. So likely we definitely trade away Drake Berehowski in this episode, but I'm not really sure on the others yet. It'll really depend on if we really think that it is the right move for our team as of right now. But still very excited, obviously, for the future, because some of the younger guys like Mike Watt has been really good with the 38 points. He's actually 3rd on the team in points, which is kind of weird. But I'm also very impressed with like Scott Hartnell, for example. He's got 32 points so far in his rookie season. Nagy's got 30 points. He is a -33, but 30-point rookie season's great. Legwand on 28 points. So a couple of the pieces that we're going to be building around are at least doing somewhat decently. So yeah, excited to see what happens in the trade deadline in terms of the AI trades and our trades itself as well, and simulating the rest of the season. So it'd be interesting to see where we're drafting for the 2001 draft. But anyways, before we get into the trade deadline itself, let's get into your guys' comments and see what you guys have to say about last episode. And then, yeah, we'll get into making probably a trade with Drake Berehowski involved at least. So the first comment is from Ryan DeSharkey69, who says, I think trading for Gill or Van Imp and Sullivan is the way to go, or getting second-round picks doesn't seem that bad of an idea either. And I agree. I think trading for Hal Gill or Darren Van Imp, probably Darren Van Imp is not necessarily one I would want. Because if we actually go over to the Boston Bruins, I think he's like 27, 30 years old already too. So he would probably just become another trade candidate down the road, if I'm not mistaken. Wait, isn't he on Boston still, or what? Oh yeah, they are scratching him. See, him and Hal Gill are scratched, and that's why they are losing morale. But yeah, so Darren Van Imp is already 27. In terms of offense, he brings some good offense. 23 points last year in 67 games. This year he's played 9 games and is a -9. So I guess Boston, yeah, just isn't doing well either. And then Hal Gill is the one that we're probably going to acquire. He's more of a good DFD, and that's something kind of we need in our lineup as players that can help keep the puck in the net. He had 14 points last season. So far, he's only played 5 games this year, but he's an even 0 defensively. So he is a bit more on the aggressive side, though, too. He will take penalty minutes, so we got to be a little bit aware about that. But he is a nice young defenseman, 5 years younger than Berehowski, like I was saying. So that would be a pretty nice addition, I think, to our roster. The next comment is from San Otaku. Says there has apparently been several 0-0 ties in league history. One of the most recent ones was Evgeny Nabokov's first NHL start, which was against Patrick Waugh in the Colorado Avalanche. So that's kind of crazy that the last most recent 0-0 tie obviously was when Nabokov made his first NHL start, because that was way back in like 2000, I think, or 2001, something like that. Maybe, yeah, 2001, I think. But that's kind of insane. A 0-0 tie with the Colorado Avalanche. Like Nabokov, if his first NHL start, he didn't allow a single goal against that type of Avs team. That's very, very impressive, considering that Avs team would have won the Cup in 01. And yeah, Patrick Wall obviously being as good of a goalie he is, that was probably a very, not necessarily entertaining game, but from a goalie perspective, that was probably one of the best goalie games you'd probably see in the last little while. And the last and final comment is from Michael Dos, who says, out with an injured stomach was a new one to me. Good news is he went to the locker room and played a game of pull the finger with his teammate to cure himself. And yeah, that was kind of a weird injury. Like, I don't think I've ever seen an injured stomach injury before in this game, because it doesn't really explain anything, because it could be like literally anything almost in regards to your stomach. Like, he could have just had a stomach flu, because that's technically, I guess, an injured stomach. So I don't really know. But anyways, let's get into trading Drake Berehowski, probably for the Hal Gill deal that we were getting offered last episode. And then we might look into the Sullivan one that Sharky was mentioning as well, which involved, I think it was Yachmenev, if I remember right, because I know that Steve Sullivan is a little bit younger. Like, let's go to Chicago's lines for a second here. I think Sullivan's maybe a couple years younger than Yachmenev is, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I don't know why he's dropped down to a 79. I think he's also losing morale, which is kind of weird. Is he getting any power play time? He is getting power play time and second line and ice time, so I don't know what's dragging him down, if it's just the team's performance or what. But yeah, he's 26 years old, so he's only a year younger technically than Yachmenev, so it's not really that great. However, we do have a lot of left wingers, so changing a left winger into a right winger would probably be good. So that's where I think we actually might make that move. Now, what's interesting is they're running Eric Dezay as a third liner, yet he's not losing morale. Huh. I think Steve Sullivan just doesn't like living in like a Monte's shadow, so to speak. Like, I can understand why he might want to be moved from this team. What's interesting is Patrick Schellberg, our former guy, is obviously in Chicago too, so we might make our second trade with the Chicago Blackhawks, which is interesting enough. So anyways, let's get into these trades and see what we could do. So first, like Berehowski, like I said, I'm probably going to go with the Hal Gill deal, because Hal Gill should go back up in terms of overall rating. Because we were having all these other offers, like multiple picks and some prospects, but this Hal Gill one, which obviously Hal Gill signed for 4 years at 3.91. I know you guys can't really see that contract, not that screen. Oops. Yeah, whatever, this screen works. So you can see he's making 3.91 for the next 4 years. So he's a little bit more of an expensive contract than Berehowski is. However, he's younger, so he's going to be signed till he's 29. We also get a 4th and a 5th round pick into this deal, which could end up being decent. It's probably not going to be anybody super huge, but that's for, I think, this upcoming draft, so 2001, and then also for 2002. So I am going to accept this deal. So Drake Berehowski, good luck in Boston, and Hal Gill, welcome to Nashville. A little bit earlier than normal, because he obviously played for the Nashville Predators. I think it was in like 2012 around, if I remember right. I think. And he's now technically our best defenseman overall, rise, which is interesting. I don't know if Timonen and Scratchins are losing morale because of how we're playing too or what, but they definitely should be higher, especially Timonen. No, it's not really that bad. Interesting. But Hal Gill, nice little solid defensive addition. Let's go back to edit lines here and get him into the exact same spot where Berehowski was. And I think I'll run with that the entire season, is him in the exact same spot, because I think Hal Gill on the power play would be okay too, just because he might have a bomb of a shot. Let's take a look at the chemistry. Yeah, the chemistry is okay. I'd probably prefer Timonen on the right side just because he's more offensively driven than Hal Gill. Yeah, that looks fine. Obviously, our defensive core not super good on paper. Looks like Commander is losing morale as well, because he's down to a 76. Let me take a look at this. Individual performance, ice time as well. Okay. Well, I'll get him into the top 4 then to change things up a little bit for the season. And then, yeah, Fitzpatrick could play with Lintner, even though they're both right-handed defenders. And then goalie-wise, looks like we're losing morale too from Thomas Vokoun. Like, everybody on this team is losing morale. I didn't even realize we're going through a little bit of a morale crisis. Obviously, his ice time is fine. It's just his individual performance, and also trading away Drake Berehowski that he's not happy. Huh. Wow. Yeah, I didn't realize our team was that dire straits in terms of that. Okay, that's interesting. Alright, so there's one of our first trades. I will look into the... I think I might actually make the Yachmenev one, but I don't know if it's going to just keep making our team even more depressed that we're trading away good players. But I think I might do it just because of the fact, like, if we go to our left wing pool, you can kind of see why trading away Yachmanov makes sense. Not only does he a pending free agent, but you also have Johansson, who we brought in. He's a left winger. You have Nagy, Pelton, and Hartnell, who are also left wingers. We also have some, I think, left wingers in the system, like Travis Moen, for example, we drafted, Ramsey Obeid. So I think, obviously, for Hartnell and Nagy to get more ice time, obviously getting rid of Yachmanov makes sense. So let's go back to the trade finder and probably do the one for Steve Sullivan, because I think that one would be decent for us. We get a 4th round pick as well involved, which is not too bad. We will have to re-sign Steve Sullivan this offseason, but I'm okay with that. And this gives us a right winger. Let me take a look at our right wing side of things. How good is our right wing side of things? We have Walker, Valachevic. So Valachevic's probably a guy I could trade as well at this point, or I'd wait till the offseason and let him go. But Walker obviously would be our first line right winger. We'd have Steve Sullivan actually maybe taking over that top line spot. Depends on chemistry, I guess. Marian Cesar is not really much of anything. We do have Erak coming up eventually at some point, and Adam Hall. So it does make a little bit of a logjam on the right wing side, but not too troublesome, I think. So that's okay. So I think that's what we're going to do, is trade for Steve Sullivan here. I don't remember if Steve Sullivan could take face-offs. No, he can't. Okay, that's no problem. But yeah, he's a really good shooter, 4-star shooter. How did he play last year? 38 points in 82 games. He's not the best offensive player in this series so far. But I think with a lot of ice time, he should do relatively well. So we're going to do this trade. So Yachmanov, best of luck in Chicago. And welcome aboard to young, or not young, I guess. Well, kind of young, Steve Sullivan. All right. So more players are losing morale because of that trade and stuff like that, but that's because Yachmanov was, I guess, a good player. But we do get a quality player in Steve Sullivan, according to this, and Steve Sullivan has immediately jumped up to an 85, so you could kind of see why that trade was something that we needed to do. And we will get Hartnell into the top 6. I think Valachevic is going to go down to the 3rd line with Johansson. Actually, I could put Johansson in the top 6, actually, because Hartnell I don't want to rush too much. So we'll get Hartnell, Bordeleau, Valachevic, and in this spot we will get Steve Sullivan in there. I'll put him actually on the top line with Greg Johnson and Nagy for now. And then power play wise, we got to get Sullivan on there. Watt's been a very good player on the power play, but he's going to get demoted to the 2nd unit just because Steve Sullivan's important to this team now. I do like Mike Watt's plays so far, but that has to happen. And I will put Walker on the point, I think. So let's get Mike Watt here on this 2nd unit. There we go. It's a -1 for some reason, but that's okay. Let me just swap the sides maybe. And that works too, I guess. Yeah, we'll keep the rest of that like that. We head over to... Why is that still saying there's a problem? Oh, it's strategies, right? So the distributor on this one will be Johansson. Walker could be the finisher. And then the puck carrier will be... Let's go with David Legwand, I guess. I don't really give a crap who it is. Alright, so there's, I think, our only trades we're going to make in this episode, because the other ones we could have traded away, Valachevic, which I honestly just might let him go in free agency, because it's not that big of a loss. Ville Peltonen is kind of one that we could get rid of, but he's a solid enough 4th liner for now, and then Sebastian Bordeleau is an okay player to hold on to for now too. So I think I'm going to wait on those guys, but the addition of Steve Sullivan I think actually almost makes us a little bit stronger, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if I want that too much, but I'm excited to see what Gill and Sullivan can do in their time here in Nashville. So there's our 2 trades we're going to make, and now we got to see what the AI does in terms of trades. I don't know if I'll actually advance into the trade deadline itself. I don't think I'm going to go into the trade deadline itself. No way. I'm going to just go to a day afterwards, and we're going to take a look at what trades the AI makes. Hopefully there's some fun blockbusters this year, because last year there obviously was. So let's go to a day after the deadline, so the 3rd. Let's just go buyer, because we're not even going into the deadline. Let's go continue simulating. What trades happened? Is there any blockbuster trades at the 2001 trade deadline? Oh my goodness, that's quite a huge one. I want you Carolina and Vancouver fans to have like your feedback on this one. Holy crap. So Marcus Naslund and Matthias Ohlund get dealt from the Vancouver Canucks to the Carolina Hurricanes. So Vancouver's still blowing it up because they're really bad. Vancouver does acquire Rod Brindamore, though, and a third-round pick. So Vancouver getting a very good two-way center and a third-round pick. Carolina getting a very nice left winger in Marcus Naslund and a top 4 defenseman in Matthias Olin. That's a pretty interesting trade. I don't know if that's going to work out for Vancouver considering they're rebuilding and they have Rod Brindamore now. But Carolina is adding some really good players, and who knows, maybe Carolina is going to be a cup contender relatively early on. Another trade, Mike Ricci was traded to the Washington Capitals for 2 second-round picks. Interesting on that front. And that's it for blockbusters. Grant Marshall is on waivers. Do I want Grant Marshall? He's only 27. That's not terrible, but I don't think I really need Grant Marshall. Has he been playing this year? No, he hasn't. Last year he had 20 points in 61 games. That's not terrible. He's a grinder. He's like kind of a defensive bottom 6 option. I don't really want Grant Marshall. I'm not going to claim players on waivers. I'll let the AI do that instead. Alright, so we saw 2 blockbuster trades. What else did we see in terms of trades at the deadline? Let's see. Is there any interesting things that you'll be like, what the hell happened there? So the first trade, Joseph Baranek and a 4th-round pick get dealt to Detroit for some prospect. Oh, that's that top 4 prospect we were getting offered before, a 3rd and 2 others, apparently. Calgary has traded away Martin St. Louis to the Toronto Maple Leafs with Brad Wawrinka for a 2nd and a 3rd. So Toronto getting a young Martin St. Louis. Will he pan out to the Martin St. Louis in real life? Probably not, but you never know. That's a very nice addition for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Carolina gets Ian LaPerriere and Sean O'Donnell from LA for a 2nd, a 3rd, and that low top 9 prospect we were getting offered, I think. We head down the list. Guy Carbonneau has been acquired by the Phoenix Coyotes with a 5th-round pick for a 2nd, a 7th, and a prospect. Defenseman, I don't know who that is. Generated guy, probably. San Jose has acquired Barrett Jackman, a 4th and a 5th from Anaheim for Marcus Ragnarsson, Kevin Haller, and František Kusera. So 3 defenders going to the Mighty Ducks, and San Jose getting a defensive prospect in Jackman, who originally started this in St. Louis, but has now been dealt multiple times. Looks like the Chicago Blackhawks made another deal. They acquired Mike Greer in a 3rd-round pick and Igor Ulanov from Edmonton for a 2nd and a 2nd. So Chicago loading up on some veteran players. So they brought in Yachmana from us. Now they brought in Mike Greer and Igor Ulanov. Vancouver's acquired prospect Anton Volchenkov in a 3rd-round pick and a 7th-rounder from Dallas for a 3rd-rounder, a 5th-rounder, and Dave Ellett. So yeah, Vancouver blowing it up completely. Buffalo has acquired Marek Malik, the shootout specialist, with a 2nd-round pick for Alexei Zhitnik, a 2nd-rounder, and 2 others. So yeah, Carolina's loading up. Buffalo looks like they're offloading a little bit, but they don't downgrade too much from Zhitnik to Malik. So that's an interesting trade. Tampa has acquired a 3rd-rounder and a 3rd-rounder and John Sim from Dallas. Dallas acquires Stan Drulia, Jason Cullimore, and 2 others. All right. So Dallas getting a couple, one veteran AHL guy, and then Jason Cullimore's like a top 6 defenseman, and then John Sim's like a bottom 6 forward. So it's kind of a nothing trade, to be honest. St. Louis has acquired Gord Murphy and Denny Lambert from Atlanta for a 2nd, a 4th, and 2 others. All right. Not big additions there for the Blues. Edmonton has acquired 2 2nd-rounders and Matthias Charnquist from Dallas. Dallas gets Jason Smith, Ethan Morrow, and Adam Burt. That's an interesting one. So Dallas getting a good, solid DFD. They also get Ethan Morrow, who's a solid, kind of grindy bottom 6 guy. And then Edmonton also gets Adam Burt, who's a solid top 6 defenseman. So that could help out the Dallas Stars quite a bit in going for a cup run. We saw about the Mike Ricci trade already. Colorado gets Todd Warner and Sergei Gusev from Tampa Bay for a 2nd. Mark Denis going to Tampa quite early. That's interesting because obviously he played in Columbus and then he went to Tampa Bay afterwards. So Mark Denis off to the Tampa Bay Lightning, as well as Brian Wilsey. The Florida Panthers have acquired Corey Stillman from the Calgary Flames. So Corey Stillman going to Florida a little bit early as well for a 2nd and a 3rd-round pick. The New York Rangers have acquired Todd Bertuzzi for a 2nd and a 3rd. Wow. Yeah, Vancouver is going to be a completely different looking team in the next few years. They're going to be like really bad, and they're going to have like a bunch of prospects because they offloaded Naslund, Bertuzzi, and all these other guys in just 1 year. Oland, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, Todd Bertuzzi going to the Rangers. That's a bit of an interesting place for him. Pittsburgh has acquired Sean Burke, a 2nd-rounder, and 2 others for Alexei Kovalev and Rene Corbet. So Alex Kovalev is off to Arizona, or to Phoenix, and Sean Burke going the other way. That's a bit of an interesting one. So Pittsburgh getting stronger goalie-wise, but giving up a very good top 6 forward. And Interesting. Yeah, very crazy trade there. Ottawa's acquired Darren Van Impe in a 7th round pick, so we were looking into Van Impe, but he gets dealt to Ottawa. For a 2nd rounder, Chris Neal headed to Boston and some goalie prospect named Cox. So Chris Neal off to the Boston Bruins. Kind of fits that role. Makes sense. We saw about the Marcus Naslund trade, which is still kind of insane. Still a few more. St. Louis has acquired Steve Guola and Johan Garpenlov from Atlanta for a 3rd rounder, Renee Bork, and 2 others. All right. And then there's our Steve Sullivan trade and our Hal Gill trade. And then we already saw, I think, in last episode about the Robert Lang one, right? Yeah, we definitely did. So a lot of trades at this deadline. Some pretty big ones, especially that Naslund one, I would say, for Rod Brind'Amour. That was definitely one that I was not expecting to see. Let me actually take a look at Vancouver, what they're looking like now that they've offloaded so many good players. I'm curious on that. All right, so they're running the Sedins. They have Rod Brind'Amour, who's the 87 overall. Marian Gaborik, all right. They do actually do stuff like an okay-looking team. Mark Messier playing right wing, though, is kind of a choice over Andrew Castles. I don't know why. All right. Yeah, this team doesn't look terrible still, but they are not simulating that good, so. That's interesting. So there we go. Let's continue simulating and get the rest of the 2001 season done. It'll be interesting to see who ends up winning the Stanley Cup and all that stuff. So we obviously do have to do a wrap-up on the season 2. So I wonder who's going to finish as the top point getter and all that. We do win our first game in a while, 5-1, but then afterwards we continue to lose games. There's a 5-2 win. Okay. I don't really need wins, but I just need some visible things to take from this team going into next season, I guess. We've been playing a little bit better hockey as of late. That's not great, really, for our record, technically, because obviously we do not want to move up the standings too much. But we did beat the Sharks 5-2. We beat the Blues 5-1. We tied a couple games as well. We had a 5-4 win over the Canucks, a 4-0 win over the Oilers, 6-3 win over the Canadiens. We lost in overtime there, and then we beat Pittsburgh 2-1. So since that Steve Sullivan trade, I think our team has definitely done a lot better, which might not be too good, as David Legwand has fractured his ankle. He will be out till May the 15th, so his season, unfortunately, will be cut out a little bit early. But at least he'll have the off season to recover from that. Scratchins was never injured, and that is the season. 27-43, 8-4. Let me go one more day just to have the AI teams finish simulating. There we go. And how did our AHL team do? 37-33, 9-3. The AHL team has made the playoffs. So shout out to Milwaukee for making it to the playoffs again. And let's take a look at our player stats for year number 2. We did finish dead last in our division, so that's good. But let's start off with the standings. This is where it's going to be interesting. So, entire league-wise, the best team was the Phoenix Coyotes. Who was the worst? The Vancouver Canucks. So we finished as the 2nd worst team in the league, which means we have good odds at potentially having either Ilya Kovalchuk or another really solid prospect. Buffalo finished just a bit above us, and then you also had the Islanders, the Rangers, Edmonton, Vancouver, Atlanta. All right. Is there any positives to take away from our bad season? Let's see. We were tied for the worst offensive team in the league with Vancouver and Buffalo. All right. All allowing 219 goals, or scoring 219 goals, I should say. Goals against per game wise, we were the 5th worst defensive team. The worst was the Vancouver Canucks. Power play percentage wise, our power play was okay, I think. Let's see. Yeah, our power play was okay. So at least we had some positives in that front. Penalty kill, on the other hand, was not good. Our penalty kill was tied for the worst with the Vancouver Canucks. So us in Vancouver are likely going to get a decent prospect in this draft. It would make sense if Vancouver won the draft lottery just because they traded away Naslund and now they could get Kovalchuk to replace him. But who knows. 15-25-1 on home ice. 12-23-3 again on the road. 5-4, 0-1 in our last 10 games. All right. So there is that. Let's take a look at these player stats. Who did what for the team this season? If we head to centers, Greg Johnson on 61 points, but a -41. Jeez. 22 power play points is pretty impressive, though. So, yeah, Greg Johnson, really good season. Mike Watt, pretty solid season as well. 47 points in his rookie season. Was not really expecting that. But he's definitely become a pretty solid bottom 6 option. Tom Fitzgerald, 35 points. Not bad. 34 from Bordelot, 32 from Leguand. And then Mowers had 2 and 3. Yeah, the depth scoring seems to be pretty solid, but obviously we were still not super great offensively. Left wing wise, Johansson on 56 points, Nagy on 42 points, but minus 39. Hartnell on 41 points in his rookie season is really solid. Peltonen 33 points, and Cote had 1 goal in 3 games. Right wing side of things, Scott Walker on 50 points, really solid. How did Steve Sullivan do with us? He had 35 points this season, and he picked up 15 points in 18 games with us, which is almost as much as he had in 63 games with the Blackhawks. So, yeah, Steve Sullivan, great addition. I'm going to definitely be re-signing him in the offseason. And we have Rob Valachevic on 30 points in 82 games. Yeah, the depth scoring is not too bad. Defensively, Timonen on 26 points. Not too bad. Scratton 17 points. Lintner 12 points. Tamander 9 points. Only minus 5, so solid defense from him. Rory Fitzpatrick 9 points. Minus 31, though. Oof. Hal Gill 7 points plus 2 in 23 games. Which means how much with us? He had 7 points in 18 games with us and was actually a plus 1. So, shout out to Hal Gill. He also had 10 penalty minutes, so yeah, he's definitely going to be a little bit more aggressive, but very impressed with Hal Gill's play. And Craig Miller, 1 goal in 7 games. All right. Also, I did not make Hal Gill a high top 4, so I think he's just growing higher than his potential was before. In terms of goaltenders, Thomas Vokoun, an 898. And then also you had Chris Mason on an 898. Yeah, our goaltending wasn't really that great. 1 assist from Vokoun this season. All right. So let's take a look at stats around the league. So who was the top point getter, top goal scorer, all that stuff? Let's see. The best point getter this year was Alexei Yashin, who would have been on the Islanders, I guess, now at this point in time, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, yeah, he would have been, I think. I'm pretty sure. I don't even know exactly. But anyways, Alexei Yashin, 110 points. Mike Modano at 104. Lindros at 102. Solani on 101. Joe Sakic on 100. And Alfredson on 11 as well. So those are your 100-point guys. The best goal scorer this season, Paul Kariya with 58 goals, just beats out Yager and Yashin with 57. Sakic had 56, and then you had Bure and Lindros on 51. Kachuk on 50. All right. So there's that. Let's take a look at some Selke candidates for fun as well. Who is up there for the Selke? Probably Ron Francis. He had the most takeaways, good face-off percentage. Yeah, it's probably going to be Ron Francis, but you also do have an argument for like Pierre Turgeon for sure. Also Adam Oates, actually. Yeah, maybe Adam Oates because he was 56% on the draw. So Adam Oates might be winning a Selke this year. I think he won it last year, if I'm not mistaken. Best defenseman in terms of points, Phil Housley with 72 points. However, based on plus-minus, they might give it to Rob Blake. 68 points plus 19. Best goal-scoring defenseman was Al McInnes, nearly hitting 30 goals as he had 27 goals this season at 37 years old. That's pretty impressive. All right. Best goaltender in terms of wins, Nikolai Hebybulin, not a surprise. Guy Hebert, also tied with 41 wins. Most shutouts by a starter was Byron Dafoe with 5 in Boston. All right. Wait, did he start in Boston? Yeah, he did, I think. Actually, never mind. I was going to say, did he start in Boston? Because I thought he was in Atlanta to start, but then, never mind. That's an 0-2 or something. I was in Atlanta. But yeah, he's definitely been a good goalie so far. Best save percentage by a starter, Nikolai Hebybulin with a 919. Damn. And best goals against average, Nikolai Hebybulin. Patrick Lalime didn't play enough games, so Hebybulin likely is going to be your Vezina Trophy winner this year, which is kind of interesting. He definitely could have won a Vezina during this era. No goalie goals this season. Most assists was Trevor Kidd with 5 assists. Best rookie player, I should say, Brad Richards. Hey, that's actually not too bad. Brad Richards just edged out Mike Watt, but Brad Richards likely going to be the rookie of the year, which is pretty cool. It was -3, had 50 points, so yeah, I think he definitely edges out Mike Watt because of that. Yeah, he's definitely the best, unless they give it to Weimer based on the +4. But Weimer also had 117 penalty minutes, so But yeah, Brad Richards, shout out to him. It's cool. And the best rookie goalie, I guess, this year was Evgeny Nabokov. Speaking of Nabokov being a rookie and making his first NHL start. Best save percentage by a rookie goalie, JSO Bang. All right. So there is that. Let's take a quick look at our AHL team as well. Let me go back to our team and then go to our AHL team because I do want to see who led our AHL team in points and all that. Dennis Arkhipov on 59, Cesar on 57, Healy 55. All right. Some guys were really badly minus this season, and then some guys took a lot of penalty minutes. Ryan Tobler had 158 penalty minutes. Jeez. Best defenseman, let's see. Nemesnikov with 58. All right. And Jan Vopat had 57 this year. All right. Goaltending-wise, Rick DiPietro posted a 912. That's pretty good for his first season. Obviously, he should be in the NHL next season. 31, 25, and 2 isn't the best record in the world, but 4 shutouts and 912 is. So, shout out to Rick DiPietro. And yeah, it will be exciting to see what he's looking like in the NHL next year, maybe as our backup. Which means Chris Mason might be gone soon, too. I don't know. So there is that. Now the question is, what are the playoff tree looking like this year as well? Let's see, who is playing who in the Stanley Cup playoffs? It's going to be Detroit and San Jose, Phoenix and Dallas, Colorado, St. Louis, and Anaheim, LA. And then in the Eastern Conference, you have Ottawa, Florida, New Jersey, Boston, Carolina, Montreal, and Toronto, Philadelphia. So this is 2001, which means it would have been a Colorado, New Jersey Cup Finals, and both those teams are in the playoffs. So let's hope that we get some similar results. So let's simulate up to the see who wins the Stanley Cup in 2001. See if we get a realistic result. Obviously, last year Anaheim beat New Jersey, which was kind of a similar result to real life, but obviously that happened actually in 2003. So who is going to win the Stanley Cup? Looks like our AHL team is going relatively far. We'll just go best lines because Legwand is not even going to be playing anyways. Hey, it looks like our AHL team might actually be on to the Calder Cup Finals, which is pretty awesome. Will they win the Calder Cup is the question. Let's see. Come on, Milwaukee. No, Milwaukee loses. Dallas, though, winning the Stanley Cup in 2001. So the Dallas Stars getting it done. That's actually not too far off probably of real life as well, because Dallas was still obviously a really good team at this point. And then their AHL team won the Calder Cup. So shout out to both Dallas teams, or well, both Stars teams. Stars and their affiliate, I should say. Who did Dallas beat in the Cup Finals? I am actually really curious on that. But first, let's take a look at... Yeah, let's go to the playoff tree. Sure. Dallas beat New Jersey. Let's go. That's the Cup Finals from the actual 2000 season. So this is a little bit of a year late. However, that's actually really cool. And New Jersey obviously actually won this matchup when it was 2000. But it's kind of crazy how we get realistic results with these simulations. Because even Tugi was having this for like the first 2 years where it was like the exact like Cup Finals almost. Or some of them were like a little bit early, some of them was a bit late. That's pretty cool. So Dallas went through the top-seeded Arizona Coyotes via sweep. So Heavy Bullen, after a great regular season, got swept in the first round. Sounds about right. Then the Dallas Stars also swept the Detroit Red Wings. That's a pretty crazy sweep. So they swept the first 2 seeded teams in the Western Conference. Then they took out the Ducks in 7 games and took out New Jersey, the second seed from the East, in 6 games. New Jersey en route to that Cup Finals, though, swept the Bruins in 4 games easily. They also took out the Florida Panthers in 6 games, and in Philadelphia in 5 in the conference finals. All right. What about AHL-wise? Yeah, our AHL team got to the finals and got swept by the Michigan K-Wings. That sucks. Because they went through Grand Rapids via sweep, so our AHL team with a big upset in first round. Then they took out Cleveland, which is the Lumberjacks in 7 games. Then they took out Louisville in 6, and then they lost in sweep fashion in the finals. That sucks. I wish they would have won, but that's okay. Let's take a look at these awards for the season. So Dallas winning Stanley Cup. Last year was New Jersey, so New Jersey almost went for a back-to-back situation. Last year, obviously, they beat Anaheim, though, is what I was saying. In terms of the Art Ross, it goes to Alexei Yashin this season, and also the Hart. Rob Blake does get the Norris because of the plus-minus. Interesting. So shout out to Rob Blake winning the Norris Trophy. Yashin gets the Lady Byng. Brad Richards does get the Calder. That's pretty cool. I don't remember if he won it in real life or not. I have to double check on that. Because I feel like he could have, but I don't know for sure. Let's see. Brad Richards. No, No, he did not win the Calder. He came second in Calder voting in 2001. Who actually won the Calder in 2001? Oh, Nabokov won it. Nabokov was 25, though, so shout out to Brad Richards winning the Calder. Deservingly so. Joe Nieuwendyk, the Conn Smythe Trophy winner for the Dallas Stars this year. All right. Heavy Bullen did win the Vezina, but didn't get swept in the first round, which is funny as shit. He also won the Jennings for his second consecutive year. So, yeah, Heavy Bullen's having a great time so far in this franchise mode. Jason Holland wins the Bill Masterton. Okay. LA's head coach wins the Jack Adams in 2001. Who was LA's head coach in the 2001 season? Some of you guys might already know at this point, but I honestly have no idea who was the coach in 2001 for them. It was, Andy Murray, isn't it? Yeah, Andy Murray was the head coach. All right, I think I've heard of him. So Andy Murray winning to Jack Adams, even though that guy technically looks like Justin Williams, in my opinion. The Selke going to Ron Francis. Interesting. Last year was Steve Ruchin. I was thinking Adam Oates could have won it, but oh well. Alexei Yashin wins the Ted Lindsay, and Paul Correa the Maurice Richard. All right. Let's take a look at the AHL awards. Kevin Adams, Mike Stapleton, Mike Comrie. Anybody else win interesting awards? Colin Forbes was the best rookie. Philip Kuba, the best defenseman in the AHL. Mika Nornan, best goaltender. Steve Martins, the Calder Cup MVP. Interesting. Mike Stapleton, another award. Frantisek Musil, Mika Nornan again, and then there is Kevin Adams. All right. I do want to take a look at what that Cup-winning Dallas Stars team looked like, just to see what they added in the offseason and stuff like that, because curious if they added any huge pieces. So let's go start off with goaltenders. So Ed Belfour and Marty Turco, really good combination, of course. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with Belfour if he leaves that team at some point and if Turco takes over. From a defensive standpoint, looks like some guys got sent down, but they have Sador, they have Hatcher, they have Jason Smith. Obviously, we saw they brought him in via trade. Same with Dave Ellett, who came in from Vancouver, and Adam Burt. Right wing wise, Brett Hull still there, Yuri Lettinen, Mike Keane, and Dixon Ward was brought in, I guess, via free agency, because I don't think that was via trade. Left wing wise, Brendan Morrow was still there. Kip Miller was brought in, looks like. Shane Corson and Ethan Morrow. We did see Ethan Morrow was brought in that same trade as Jason Smith was. We also have Joe Nieuwendyk, obviously, Mike Medano, and Kirk Muller. All right. So there is that Cup-winning team. Now the question is where we're going to be drafting for the 2001 draft and that type of thing. Hopefully we could win the Ilya Kovalchuk sweepstakes because that would be really nice. However, if we don't, at least Vancouver maybe has a chance to get him too, because Vancouver definitely deserves him. And unfortunately, we're going to fall from 2 to 3, but we do still have a top 3 pick, which is nice. So we're drafting higher than last year. Vancouver will fall from 1 to 2, and Edmonton moves from 6 to 1. So Edmonton is going to be able to get Ilya Kovalchuk, which is interesting to say the least. I don't know where he fits in on that team. I don't even know what the roster looks like actually at this stage, but the Edmonton Oilers, Vancouver, the Stenitz, Buffalo, and the Islanders round out the top 5. All right, let's take a look at what this draft class looks like and stuff like that once we see the retired players, because we should actually have some retired players this year. Last year we didn't have a single retired player, so let's see who retires in year number 2, technically. Glenn Healy, the best goalie to retire. We also have Bob Essenza. So Bob Essenza and Glenn Healy both gone at 38 and 37 years old. Defensively, Phil Housley decides to call quits at 37. That's a pretty big retirement for the Calgary Flames. Al McInnes also retired. So 2 guys that are always up there for like the Norris Trophy have retired. So that's some big losses across the league. Both guys Hall of Famers in my opinion. I don't know if Housley's in the Hall of Fame now or not. I think he's definitely close to it. But Al McInnes definitely a Hall of Fame defenseman. Dmitry Mironov also retires at 36. Brandon Manning doesn't matter. Tommy Albaline has retired. All right. Todd Gill as well. Marty McSorley retires. That's an interesting one, obviously, because of his penalty minute count, probably. And Grant Ledyard retires at 40 years old. Alexei Gusarov retires at 36. And also, you have Bobby Dallas retiring and Bob Rouse. Okay. And that should be it for defenders. Yes, it is. Right wing wise, what do we got? Kevin Dineen retired at 38. All right. He probably dropped off a lot. And that's the only right winger to retire. Left wing wise, it looks like nobody. Trying to just make sure that we don't miss anybody here. Oh, Pavel Torgeyev, I think I just saw, actually. Never mind. There is Pavel Torgeyev, who probably none of you guys know, but he only played 7 games in the series, apparently. 36 years old. And center-wise, any retirements here? Looks like Ron Sutter hangs them up at 38. And that is it. So in terms of forwards, not a lot of retirements, but defensively, some pretty big losses in terms of the league and some solid goaltenders too. So there we go. Coach retirement-wise, looks like we did not lose anybody in terms of coaches. Yep, nobody in terms of coaches, which is good. Some NHL teams had their coach retire, which is interesting. So there's that. Phil Housley and Al MacInnis are now scouts. That's cool. Usually it doesn't happen that often where creative players become scouts and stuff, but Phil Housley and Al MacInnis is a scout. That's kind of neat. So shout out to those two guys. We'll continue simulating on this, and let's take a look at what this year's draft class is looking like. Also the progress reports and contract situation. So starting off with the draft class. Obviously we know Ilya Kovalchuk's the top pick going to the Oilers, it seems like, which kind of sucks, because that would have been really nice to have on a roster. Looks like we could get 2 generated guys. There's Generous, who's probably going to go second to the Canucks. However, if we want to go for a generated guy, there is Budens. But if we want a center, we have the opportunity to take Jason Spezza, which is pretty damn awesome. Alashemsky's right behind him, but he's only in top 6. I think I made Spezza medium elite, so I think Jason Spezza or this 2-way defenseman is what we're going to be leaning towards. Obviously, having a good defenseman could make sense, but do we want to draft guys that are generated or guys that are actually players at this time period? So Jason Spezza might be the pick. For sure. Let's take a look if there's any gems in this draft, like any low elites and stuff. Probably not really, because the draft class quality is not super high up, right? This guy could be a low elite, but I honestly have no idea because he's a generated. Yeah, I don't know. No guarantees on those. Any gems? Jason Spezza is the only gem, apparently. And then according to our scouts, P.A. Perreault is a bust. Noah Welsh is. Dennis Seidenberg is. Joel Perreault is. And Rich Peverley. I wouldn't say Perreault is a bust. I would say Noah Welsh may be a bust. Dennis Seidenberg's not a bust in my opinion. Joel Perreault is. And Rich Peverley isn't either. So I don't know why those guys are getting labeled as busts, but they are. Just kind of funny. Alright. So there is that. Will be interesting to see where that goaltender Sedin goes if he ends up going to the Vancouver Canucks, because he could go early 2nd round. So, so there is the draft stuff. Let me actually go to the draft board. What picks do we have for this year's draft? Just in case you guys want me to move. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize I had this much picks this year. Yeah, what do we want to do with this abundance of picks? Do we want to package like a couple of them up and stuff like that to move up in the draft so we could get Ilya Kovalchuk? Because we could do that. We have literally 3 second-round picks this year. We have literally 2 third-round picks, 3 fourth-round picks, a 5th and a 6th, and also our 7th rounder. We could also trade some of these picks for future picks for the 2003 draft, because the 2003 draft will be a lot more stacked. So I'll leave that up to you guys on that front. But like second-round wise, we could grab guys like Tim Gleason, which is interesting, Curtis Glencross, Shane Morrison. Or Sean Morrison, I think it may be pronounced. I don't even know. Thomas Sorovi. Like, this draft class isn't super strong, so that's where I'm thinking about trading some of these picks for future picks. Like, package 2 seconds and some thirds, get maybe a future high up second rounder for next year, or first round pick even. I don't even know. But yeah, we still have a long ways to rebuild this team for sure. So there's that. Let's take a look at the progress report, see if we got any good growth from any guys on our team. Like Erat, for example, who's in the system. So Nagy's up to an 83. That's pretty good. So he's getting some growth. Kimmo Timonen jumped to an 85. Scott Hartnell's up to an 81. Mike Watt didn't really get much growth, only some statistical looks like. DiPietro's still a 77, but he'll likely be our backup next year. Alright. In the system-wise, Brooks Orpik went up to a 65. Not too bad. So Brooks Orpik getting growth. Ramsey Abid, almost ready to be a bottom 6 guy. He's 70 at 21. Kopecky went up a lot as well, up to a 61 at 19. That's impressive for a medium top 9. Moen's up to a 66. Hutchinson is 69. Ellis is 64. Yeah, it looks like a lot of our prospects are growing, which is nice. Erat should be in the AHL probably soon. I don't know how much time he has left in junior, though. So there's all of that. And final thing, what is our contract situation looking like for next episode? Let's see what we got here. So all expiring, Scott Walker's the big one, and Steve Sullivan, both pending UFAs. I'm honestly okay with giving somebody like Walker a 5x5 and Sullivan something similar. Yeah, I could definitely lock both those guys up on like 5-year deals if you guys want. Or I could sign them until they actually left this team at that point. I don't know. Ladislav Nagy's an RFA, so obviously we'll hold on to him. But what do you guys think we should do with like guys like Bordeleau? Bordeleau's up to an 81, so I think he's still useful to hold on to. But we also have Ville Peltonen, who probably gets let go of Valchevic. Mike Watt can definitely come back. Mark Mowers we don't necessarily need. Yeah, I don't know who I'm going to let go of in the next episode for sure at this point. Goaltending-wise, Thomas Voku needs a contract because he's a pending RFA. Yeah, I could definitely sign Voku for like a 4-year deal. He's really cheap, actually, for that matter, so that's pretty nice. And then Brian Finley, I don't know if I give him a contract, to be honest. So there's that. I do also want to take a look at who could be a pending free agent this offseason. Just in case, just to see what might be out there for free agents once we get to that in the future episodes. So there is a chance that some players like Jeremy Roenick, Marcus Naslund might test free agency unless they get re-signed. Brett Hull. There could be some pretty good free agents this year. But obviously a lot of these guys will probably end up getting re-signed by their respective teams, my guess. What about goalie-wise? Ole Kolzig, damn. That's pretty impressive. What about defenders? Daryl Sadora, Brian Rafalski. Yeah, there could be some decent free agency this year. It depends, though, if the teams re-sign them or not. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Nashville Predators Throwback 2000 franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the 2001 NHL Draft. We might make some trades involving our picks for future years or moving up if you guys want me to try. And we'll see if we're maybe able to try and move up to get Kovalchuk, if you guys want to get Kovalchuk, or we could just take Jason Spezza or that generated two-way defenseman. So anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.